Greetings, this is Dr. C here, and I want to talk to you about agentic AI. Specifically, I want to take a look at CrewAI, one of the very popular agentic frameworks, and give you a sense of how to work with agents and tasks and tools, because that's the key to making complicated AI applications where agents working as LLMs can collaborate to solve more complicated problems. So when we look at a large language model, we know they're great, right? We talk to them, they give us assistance, they help us through sleepless nights. But the reality is they're great at chatting, but what else can they do? And that is where agentic frameworks come into play. So what CrewAI, as an example, and other agentic frameworks do is they give LLMs access to tools. So now the LLM is not a dummy, but it's part of a crew that can access tools and get real work done. So what I want to do here is going to want to walk you through how tools fit in to the framework of CrewAI. So a little background on CrewAI. It is an open source project developed by a single individual, Zhao Mora, came out in 2023. And the idea was to set up a framework where agents, essentially working as LLMs under the hood, each with specialized roles and capabilities, can collaborate to solve more complicated problems. Now, as I mentioned, each agent can be associated with a different large language model to support agent specialization. So as you know, on Hugging Face, you've got over 1,000 different large language models with different capabilities, different size requirements, and these can be mapped to the different agents that you may have in your CrewAI. And then there were later updates to the CrewAI framework in which tools became a powerful component of the framework. And that's what I want to concentrate on in this video. So let's take a look at our screen that shows you what CrewAI is all about. It's about agents, tasks, and tools that work together. So I want to step through this to give you a sense of how they play with each other. So what we really start off with when you're trying to solve a problem, you want to use artificial intelligence, you want it to have things done for you. And this is where tasks come into play. So under the hood, tasks are Python objects. So we're in Python land, but we're abstracting that away in many ways, just thinking about the tasks that need to be done. So tasks are Python objects. They describe things that need to be done, such as, very general, research the latest advances in renewable energy technology. That may be one of the tasks we want the agent to be able to do. Now, when we look at the agents are Python objects that have general goals. For example, a research agent job is to assist a large language model, work with a large language model, and work with tools to help satisfy their goal. So agents have very general goals, and tasks are much more specific about what we want to have done. So think of your agents as being an LLM with some other capabilities thrown in. If you look at the structure of the Python code, you'll see it's an object, and one of the properties of the agent is the LLM that it's connected to. Now, tools are also Python objects. So this is sort of an object-oriented framework. And within that class definition, within the Python object definition, is essentially a run method that will actually execute and do something. So this is how we get large language models to interact with the world, okay, through executable code. So examples. We could have a tool that will search the web for documents on a specific topic. That would be a certain kind of tool. We can have other tools that extract text from a PDF file. And there are a number of tools available to you and me through the CrewAI framework. So what I want to do now is to give you a sense of the tools that are available through CrewAI, as well as talk a little bit about how you can make your own tools. But in this podcast, I just want to talk about the tools that are available to you because it's the easiest way to work with tools and CrewAI, and there are a good number of them. So here is from the docs.crewai.com website, available tools that you can just use, import into your Python code, doc search tools, code interpreter tools, a DALL-E tool for creating images, a docx so you can search through Word documents, read specific files, a few more. A GitHub search tool. You can go out and look at GitHub repositories and bring code and documentation in. A JSON search tool. Llama Index, we can look up tools that Llama has. A vision tool, you can create images with the DALL-E API, and a RAG tool for doing RAG work. What I want to focus on here is the Serper Dev tool, which is a specialized tool that lets you go out, search the web for specific topics. So I want to show you how to use that. So what I want you to take away here is that you do not have to write your own search tool unless you really need a very specific piece of functionality, because the tools that are available are very significant. So when you want to use the Serper Dev tool, you import from CrewAI tools, you import the tool. And then within your code, you're going to create this instance of the Serper Dev tool that is considered to be a tool. Now, these tools are part of an object-oriented framework, so there's a lot of stuff built into them, which is the advantage of using these basic tools that come from the Serper Dev. So the key takeaway that I want you to get from this video is when you use one of the CrewAI tools, the integration of the tool with the agents is taken care of by the framework. So when we look at the code, you're going to say, how is this tool even being used by the agent? I'm going to kind of walk you through that. You can also write your own tool, as I mentioned. When you write your own tool, you're basically defining an instance of the tool class, but you need to specify the input parameters and the output parameters. And so it's a little more complicated than just using an off-the-shelf tool from CrewAI. So bottom line, most tasks can be handled by one of the CrewAI tools. So show me the code. That's where the truth is. So let's drill down a little bit and take a look at a Python program that uses CrewAI to solve a problem. So let's look at some CrewAI code. So the problem that we're going to have is I want to do some searches on AI and research in education. So the first thing I want to do is think about the tasks that need to be done. So what things do we have to do? Okay. So here's a breakdown. Search the internet for information about AI and education. We want to get the information, then we want to summarize the findings, and then we want to generate an image based on the summary. Okay. So what I want to do is show you how each of these tasks can be mapped to 3 agents which sit on top of 3 different large language models. Okay, so I'm doing some variation in the theme. Here is some imports. Don't need to worry about this with CrewAI. We're going to agents, tasks, crews, and a process. We're going to import 2 tools from CrewAI. The Serper Dev tool, which does web searches, and something called the DALL-E image gen tool, which I have not tried, but is supposedly going to generate some graphic images. We're going to need some keys to do this. Just put your AI key if you have one in there, but this is more of a demo. So here are our 2 tools. Search tool, Serper Dev tool. This is a constructor we're calling. So we essentially get classes from the OpenAI, and we are generating an instance of those classes. So now we have our 2 tools. Very straightforward. We're going to do 3 agents, and we're going to do 3 tasks. So let me show you the tasks first. We define our tasks, which we defined above, a research task. And these tasks are going to have properties. This is a description property. Tells us what tells the system, is going to tell the LLM what we want to do. Describe how AI is being used in the classroom, case studies, etc. It gives me some examples. We're also going to map this task to an agent. So we're going to have a researcher agent. So often the way this is constructed, you come up with the tasks you want to have done, and then you create agents that map, that will be using an LLM to help you satisfy that task request. So we have a research agent whose task will be, we have a task, and we associate this agent researcher, which I'm going to show you in a minute, that is going to be doing this task, and we have an output that we expect. We have another task, the summarization task. So based on the research provided, create a comprehensive summary. So we're in effect setting up a chain of tasks. One task is going to follow the other. And down here we have another task. The third task is we're going to create a DALL-E image based on the summary provided. Now, notice, come up here, the first research task essentially has an agent and an expected output. So, but notice that this task, the summarizer task, has a context. The context is going to be the research task, and this is the way you get the data to flow. Where is the summarizer going to get its information from? It's going to use the research task's results. And where is the DALL-E visualization going to get its input from? It's going to get its input from the summarization task. So this is how the data flow can be arranged in this particular instance of using the CrewAI. Now let's look at the agents themselves. Scroll back up here. Here's our researcher agent. We have roles and goals and backstories, and notice we have an LLM defined. So this is how we specify that the agent is going to be associated with a different LLM. I just made this up just to give you an example of how you can think about this when you're building, consulting with an application developer, and you're going to be using maybe local models that have more specific capabilities. Now with the researcher agent, we're going to associate a tool, the search tool. Okay. Now we're going to have the education analysis, content analysis. There are not going to be any tools associated with it. So the agent, this agent is going to use GPT-4 to do the work. Okay. Now you may ask, well, what is Anthropic Claude doing here with the search tool? When CrewAI launches this application, what's going to happen is it's going to look for a task. It's going to see the first task. It's going to see that the task is associated with an agent. It is going to sort of pass control over to the agent, who will take all this information about, I am a researcher, here's my goal, and it's going to pass this into Anthropic Claude 3 Opus, along with details of what the search tool can do. So it's basically saying, here I am, I'm having a this agent is having a conversation with Claude. That's how you have to think of it. And what is it feeding as context? All this stuff. I am an education researcher. I am a research specialist. I want you, LLM, to discover the most relevant applications. You are an expert in educational technology. And here is this search tool that this OpenAI framework knows about and tells it, here's this search tool, here's how I search for things, here's how I want the results back. This is under the hood. And Anthropic will come back and say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a call to the search tool with these parameters. So essentially you're using the large language model to set up interactions with the search tool. That's how you need to think of it. You're asking the model to help you configure this tool that's going to get work done, because Opus Anthropic cannot execute code. Well, some of them now can sort of execute code, but in this kind of model, we're going to be passing the torch of execution to the search tool. Now, when this information comes back, the next agent will be called into play because this next agent has the next task associated with it. And again, it's going to get back all the information from the search tool and simply use GPT-4 to write a comprehensive analysis. Okay? Then the next task is going to come into play, our visualization designer. Now, this also has a tool, the image gen tool. So what's going to happen here? The agent is going to communicate with this large language model, Cohere Command R+. And it's going to say, okay, you are a visual communicator who translates concepts. Create a visually engaging representation. Okay? And in effect saying, I have access to an image generation tool. Here is a bunch of detail from the previous agent. Now I want you to tell me how to talk to the image generation tool. And then the image generation tool will jump into action and perform these operations. So this is sort of how the data flow works. A lot of it is kind of hidden from you as you just configure, but that's the job. That's the job of these agentic technologies, is to make things much simpler to use. So we have just to review what we have what we want. We want 3 things, let's say. So now we're going to have 3 agents associated with, some are going to have different tools, some are going to have different LLMs under them, and then we're going to have 3 tasks, 1, 2, and 3, and then we come down here and we have create the crew. So this is CrewAI, the AI education crew. We tell it who our agents are: researcher, analyst, creative director. We give it the tasks: research tasks, summarize tasks, visualize tasks, verbose. We get more information. But now this is optional, but this is one thing that's used. The default is this: process sequential. So we're going to process each task in turn, and this is going to give us a linear flow of activity. And then to make it all start, we have to kick off the crew. And so we say to the AI education crew, kick off, and then everything magically happens, driven by the 3 agents that are operating with 3 different large language models. So I hope that gives you some sense of how the CrewAI framework works.